we are. We're at RSAC Conference. Sterling Wilson, how are you, man?
I'm doing very well. How are you today?
I'm very good myself. So good to see you.
It's great to see you again.
We've had some good chats already. I'm excited for today's conversation.
Absolutely.
A lot of some announcements.
We have
some
a few
research.
announcements. Absolutely.
And some scenarios I think people want to hear, which we're going to get to as well. So before we dig into all the good, not that this isn't cool and fun, what's your role?
Sterling Wilson, Field CTO with Object First, and we're here to keep people's data safe.
That's right. And I have to say, the Field CTO role, probably one I'd love to have. You get to see a lot of stuff.
It's one reason I like it is, yes, you get to see a lot of stuff, but you get to be out there right where the people are, right where the customers are. So you get to listen and take some of that feedback, which ultimately improves the product.
Yep, absolutely, and their environment hopefully as well.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So let's start off with, I know there's some ESG research that was put together that highlights some things that organizations need to look at with respect to data protection. So what are some of the highlights that you want to kind of pull out for us?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, that ESG report really drew home that 81% of people understand that immutable object storage is really the only way to totally secure your data today. Now, of course, it means it's still a multifaceted approach, but I think it draws down that immutability itself is no longer an option.
So maybe I'm going to presume a lot of people understand what immutable storage is, but maybe let's give a definition of that, just to ensure that we're all on the same page with respect to what you're talking about.
I think that's a great place to start. I actually just gave a chat across in Moscone South a little bit ago where really started to talk about what is immutability and what is true immutability. I've heard it called by many other names, worm and all of these other things, and at the root of it, it's all true, but immutable storage and immutable data sitting on immutable storage are attributes of the data that cannot be changed until a scheduled period has elapsed. So data that is marked as immutable, if it's in a safe zone, it is about as safe as you can get, because even if bad guys can get to where that data rests, they can't change the data, they can't encrypt the data, and they can't do anything else to the data that would change its set of circumstances. It's indelible.
So maybe not quite exactly like the safe in a 7-Eleven that only opens at 10 p.m. or whatever it is, but some schedule or some attributes that say this is when something can happen.
That's exactly right. And to just build very quickly upon that, the set of attributes would be immutable itself, but it's really important to have that segmentation of backup data, of the backup permissions from the storage permissions, because you can change those attributes as well. Yeah. So immutability is part of it, but it's part of a larger multi-layered story.
So tell me about where the customers you're working with, in terms of what their business looks like, how storage fits into that, how immutable storage fits into that, and the connection to risk management, cybersecurity, business resilience. I said a lot there, but kind of what that picture looks like.
It's so funny how security touches everything today, right? I've been in the data management, data recovery, data resilience arena for some time. And what we've seen certainly today are customers are doing more with less. They're wearing many hats. They've had different types of storage, and storage that was really geared towards faster recovery or ease of use, or honestly sometimes lack of budget. And today there really needs to have that security component. So a lot of my time is actually spent with customers making sure they understand how they can still have the performance they need with the security attributes they want. And we see that they're struggling with some of the complexity of building those things themselves. They're dealing with slow recovery times. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when that we hear so much. But they're also not getting the security that they need, the set of attributes with the actual box. And we're here to solve that.
So who's responsible? What's the relationship between the key stakeholders in terms of setting policy, managing, keeping track of what's where and who has what, and how that impacts business workflows? Yeah,
I think everything really does touch security now. 10 years ago, that would have been the sole responsibility of a virtual administrator, or maybe a person that wears two hats of the storage team and the virtual team. But at this point, everybody has a hand in it to understand where the data and security, and when we'll talk about in a little bit, when we talk about some of our customers that have recovered, how many hands are really in the pot now, and when it comes down to it, to be able to trust your data at the root of it.
So I'll lean into the trust thing. You have to be able to demonstrate that this is actually what's happening, right? So I don't know if you have some new announcements or something that might help paint a picture for folks of what you actually deliver and how you can demonstrate that they can trust what you're doing.
Absolutely. At the root of it, we are on-premises hardware appliance that is hardened from right out of the box. So we're 15 minutes, box to backup, as we like to say, a couple of IP addresses, cluster IP, and you're pretty much in the GUI. So it's easy and simple to use to be able to put it into the Veeam architecture itself.
Which you haven't touched on yet. Maybe mention that.
Solid point, solid point. We are purpose-built for Veeam architectures. So we understand that Veeam admins, Veeam as a solution itself is a very large framework. You can build it in many different ways. As a matter of fact, the flexibility of Veeam is what makes it so powerful. It gives the customer a choice of how and where and to use their data. We believe that the customers shouldn't have to be security experts to adopt the highest level of security for their data. So when you have data that you absolutely cannot have taken, cannot have ransomware encrypted or cannot, it is the highest level of what you need, that is when you look at an object-first OOTBI. One of the things that we've done is we've listened to customers, and what we've heard is, we love your product, we want to use it in different ways. We have remote office branch offices, or we have smaller areas. We need different size boxes.
Right.
And so one of our announcements just a couple of weeks ago is we announced 3 new sizes. 2 that were smaller, 20 and 40 terabyte, and one that's much larger, a 432 terabyte, that in a clustered situation goes almost to 1.7 petabytes.
I'm going to fill that one with music.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
What about governance? I can touch on a little bit in terms of demonstrability, but also sovereignty, which has become pretty significant topic of late. So how do you guys play with that?
Absolutely. Basically, the governance is done within the box itself. When you create a bucket, you can choose whether that bucket is versioned or not, and that will set that immutability stage in that. Everything else is done within Veeam. So we want to make sure that we keep it simple enough for 2 reasons. We want to make sure that the Veeam administrator, the Veeam architect, can leverage the best facets of Veeam. That means their encryption, their deduplication, their jobs to put the data where it needs to be onto that object first. But the second part of that is about reducing the attack surface. When you use solutions where you have to control your own encryption on the box, or you have to lower certain roles in order to provide updates to that box, that actually increases your attack surface, and worse, it sends data unencrypted in flight.
Right.
So we shut all that down to make sure that's governed in the proper way.
Are there any other challenges in a Veeam environment without Object First that might be a sign that they're exposed, that they might be vulnerable to an attack that exfiltrates data or destructs data or damages data?
You know, it really depends on what they're using today.
Right.
A lot of times we talk to customers, and once again, because Veeam is so flexible, Veeam can be architected to run all from the same server. Veeam has made some advancements, and they're using different. You know, they have an appliance that just came out that runs on Linux, but traditionally it's a Windows server. And so if you're using just a bunch of disks that we like to say JBOD, you know, in that server, it really provides some substantial risks. One of the largest risks, no matter what you're using, is using the exact same backup credentials that is transmitting the backup data to the backup credentials that have the credentials on the storage itself. We believe very firmly that they should remain separate. We have to assume a breach in all scenarios. Object First is designed to work when all secrets are known.
Right.
That means when you have all the passwords, you're able to transverse back and forth throughout the architecture, you still will not be able to break into an Object First OOTBI device and steal the data.
OOTBI, that's right.
OOTBI.
I love the name.
Can we just say that name again?
OOTBI. There we go, we said it together.
Stands for out of the box immutability.
Look at that. I want to touch on, because we're kind of saying it without saying it, zero trust.
Zero trust.
Which has become, I don't know, I think people laughed at it a few years back. I think it's starting to take hold. I think it's not a single process, not a single set of technologies. It's a mindset.
Yep.
And if you apply that mindset to a policy and an implementation and a way of managing things, you're in much better shape. That's my personal view.
Absolutely.
What do you think about, and what does Object First do with respect to zero trust?
Absolutely. I mentioned a little bit before that immutability is necessary. I hate to use the term table stakes, but you really need to have that around your data today. But that's just not all. You know, zero trust has been around for a while, and zero trust can mean so many different things to so many different people. Yes. But at the root of it, it's really all about making sure the person is who they are at every step. So that if you steal somebody's credentials in a true zero trust scenario, you have to verify it explicitly at every single step. That has been seen at pretty much all parts of the architectures, from CASBs at the edge, to VPNs, to logging in, to different applications. Wildly, it has never been applied to the backup architecture itself. And so now we have a scenario where you have a bunch of deployments where the same set of credentials are used. Right. So when we set immutability, when we set all those things, the data has all of the wrappers it needs around it. Well, a nefarious actor can come in and just lower those wrappers ad nauseum. So what we've done is apply the best facets of zero trust to the segmentation of the backup data. We call that zero trust data resilience, and we actually wrote a white paper with Veeam on it to make sure that people understand that we really need to apply the zero trust directly to the backup. That means verify explicitly every single time that you do a backup job. It means making sure that the credentials that do the backup jobs and pull those backups from the production architecture don't have the rights to elevate themselves on the box itself. And of course it means using immutable storage S3 connection from the beginning.
Well, I'm a nerd this way, but I'm gonna want to read that white paper now.
Absolutely, I think everyone should.
Let's talk about a scenario or two. I know we have one in particular we want to talk about where things happen. Life is real. Businesses are running. Threat actors are active, and malware and ransomware are prevalent.
It happens.
So talk to us about at least one customer. If you have more, that's fine too, but at least one where Object First was in place and helped the customer recover.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, these are always delicate subjects. You know, it's tough sometimes for customers to admit, maybe that they got, caught in a tough situation. We have one particular customer, Marysville School District in Marysville, Ohio. It's about 9 particular schools in a district, and they were taken down hard. And they actually came out and wanted to be vocal about this story because they understand that other school districts and companies alike may be struggling with those same types of things. And so they had a ransomware attack. They had everything done right. They had carbon black, they had all of the types of edge devices, they had all of the things set up within their architecture to keep ransomware out. But what we always talk about is we have to assume that there's already been a breach. Right. We have to assume that there has already been some sort of incursion where they are just lying in wait and waiting to take over your systems. That's exactly what happened to Marysville in Marysville, Ohio. So they took all of their systems down, some of the names remain nameless of some of the others that we were on the calls with to try to bring their data back. But let's just say on this call, we went around the call doing a check from every single vendor and system. Every single vendor and system was taken down. But yet when they got to Object First, we were able to unmute ourselves on the call and say, our data is solvent and ready to be brought back. In fact, we were ready to be brought back the moment that they started the recovery, but we actually had to delay a little bit because there was an FBI investigation that was ongoing at that time.
Interesting.
It was because of the segmentation of those credentials that the admin account that had been taken and was used for all that nefarious activity still was not able to get into the Object First box and encrypt those backups. Those backups were safe and Marysville was able to recover.
Separation of duties for the win.
Exactly right.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Let's I'm going to ask you this. You work with a lot of organizations. You just gave an example of a successful attack, successful recovery. what's the rest of the scenario look like for customers? Because they're making an investment in their data.
Yeah.
They're making an investment to protect it. What's the feedback you get in terms of working with you and your team? I'm going to presume the easiness of the solution and limited impact on the operations of the business and the teams responsible for managing the data. Give me some stories about how they work with you.
That's really a great question. We're a year 3 startup, and it's important, it's imperative that we listen to our customers and listen to our partners. In fact, just last week we had a partner advisory council where we had a roundtable where we got some honest feedback of not only what would help them deliver better business to their customers, but how they were growing themselves. We took that feedback and we actually made another announcement last week. That announcement was that we now offer OOTBI, out-of-the-box immutability, in a consumption service.
Okay.
So we still offer CapEx where a partner or the customer themselves can go out and buy that box and do with that box what they need. But what we also understand there are some customers where maybe they don't understand their budget up front. Maybe they know that they are going to acquire another company within that year, and they're placing their budgets and money in a certain place. We can offer them the ability to pay as they go. It gives them all of the same updates, hardening, support from us, but gives them the flexibility to really grow as their business grows as it needs. We also listen to our partners. Many are service providers. Many provide object-first OOTBI as a service to their customers. What they wanted to do was to be able to scale quickly, to be able to move customers where they needed to at a moment's notice. This consumption service allows them to consume as they go, not have to worry about the hardware or the boxes themselves. That is a risk that Object First takes for them to allow them to focus on their business and grow as they need to grow. So it's predictable monthly cost, 1 year, yearly sign-on and subscription and renew every year, and they literally we do a sizing with them to make sure that they get the right size of consumption service. That is the most important at this point, to make sure that everyone's happy. And that's a large part of the feedback that we've heard.
Very cool. Well, Sterling, I love the energy.
I love being here.
I love the OOTBI.
We love the OOTBI.
And appreciate you and this conversation, my friend.
Thank you so much for having me here. We really appreciate you all, and I hope I can come back soon.
I hope so as well. Thanks, everybody, for listening to this brand story here from RSAC Conference. Be sure to check out OOTBI, connect with Sterling, connect with Object First. Stay tuned, itspmagazine.com/RSAC25 for more coverage. Catch you on the next one.